Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of The Current on MMA Island. I am one of your hosts, Slick Diaz. I'm joined by the main man, Zach Harkness. Uh, we are reaching the
Hello.
conclusion of the UFC's hiatus for the 2021 holidays. Before our return to form this weekend at UFC on ESPN 32, Cater versus Chikadze, here's what the Tide brought in this week. Before we get to the UFC news, Zach, is there anything that's going on outside of the world's largest promotion that MMA fans might need to be in the know about? Any big things happening in the other promotions that you are so keen on?
Well, first things first, you may recognize the name Brad Katona,
Yes.
the Ultimate Fighter winner. Found his way out of the promotion, even though he wasn't cut, I don't think. I think it was just contractual differences. Anyway, he has been signed to promotion Brave Combat Federation. And after a string of impressive victories, he is now booked in March to fight for their bantamweight title against Hamza Hedgie. The belt is vacant right now, and so we'll see if Katona can pick up that strap and maybe find his way back into the promotion.
That would be really cool. I mean, he had some really high moments. The people he ended up beating, he ended up beating Bryce Mitchell, or was that Tyler Diamond?
Yeah, no, that was him. That was Brad Katona.
Okay, yeah. So Bryce Mitchell undefeated on paper, but in his exhibition bouts in Tough, he ended up not winning the show, and he was beaten by Brad Katona, of whom we speak now. So it would be cool to see Brad get back in there because he's still young, right? He's maybe 30.
He's in his prime.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, there's not really much else outside of the UFC going on right now, right? We're just starting the year off.
KSW, same day as the UFC, just a bit earlier. Make sure the main event's a lightweight title bout, but make sure to pay special attention to the light heavyweight bout. Their champion Tomasz Narkun is making the defense. I would watch Narkun fight. He's super fun, super entertaining, and his nickname is Zirafa, which is Polish for giraffe. And if that is not enough to sell you, I don't know what is. He's
No.
super sick. Check it out.
That's the kind of news we're looking for here on The Current. The stuff to pique the people's interest, and that definitely piqued my interest. But let's take a peek at what we had going on inside the cage in the last week. We've had a lot of news, but I tried to consolidate it to a concise format as to not keep this super long. This is going to be our current events little submission weekly on MMA Island. So we're going to try to keep this around definitely under half an hour, but we're going to shoot for 15-20 minutes on these. So without further ado, Movsar Evloev is out of his fight with Ilia Topuria, and Topuria was attempting to get a fight with Dan Ige on Twitter. That didn't happen, and now a fight with Charles Jourdain is in the works instead for UFC 270. Zach, I would love to know your thoughts on that because I know you're really high on Ilia Topuria.
I am. And to give you an idea of how high on Topuria I am, there's only two featherweights in the world who I would predict confidently over him, and they're the ones at the top of the division. I think that this guy may be the most current promising prospect that we have right now. And I was really excited to see him fight Evloev because Evloev is also kind of a very, very hyped prospect. I have my reservations with him. I can get into those later when that fight probably does get rebooked. But this is a fun step up, kind of. I want to see. I know that this isn't like what they intended, but I do want to see Topuria take on like top 10 competition. I think Evloev is top 10 level talent. Jordan is a fun action fighter, but he's not a guy who's going to grace the top 15. And I do think this is a bit of a step down for him. He's fun to watch, obviously, but uh, I don't see much of what he can do to Topuria. Topuria is just kind of better than him at everything. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm very grateful for him because I do get a chance to see Topuria next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. That was the fight I was most looking forward to outside of the title fights because any chance I get to watch Topuria it's worth it in its own right. So I'm just grateful for Jordan to step up and take a loss on his record for us.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that we know for sure that Jourdain isn't going to be a top 10 talent. I think that he's shown a lot of promise and he's electric. I like he's certainly exciting and he's must-watch television. I get what you're saying about like you have definitive reservations on him as well, but I wouldn't count him out already. I mean, the guy's got a lot of talent.
Oh, he does. It's just featherweight's so good.
Yeah. So next in the news, the bantamweight championship and unification bout between Aljamain Sterling, the sitting champion, and interim champion Petr Yan is rumored to be rescheduled, I think, for April 9th. I might have the date wrong.
That sounds right.
Yeah, that
it's in
sounds
April.
right. So Aljamain Sterling says that it is due to Petr Yan's vaccination status, but Petr Yan chirped right back and said, no, it's so they have time to find a backup because we know you're going to pull out again. It's a pretty cold line from the interim champ. What do you think about that? Who do you think? It doesn't matter who you think's telling the truth, but man, are we ever going to get to see this fight at this point? Again, I mean, it's going to be the rematch, so we saw it once, but
I feel like Sterling's kind of milking this gimmick as long as he can because he realized that this is getting him the most attention he's ever really had in his career before. Because for years, Aljamain Sterling's a stone cold veteran of the division. He's been around for a very, very long time, and kind of no one gave him the respect of one of the best bantamweights in the world, which he is.
Mm-hmm.
And now I guess he's learning from Cejudo that you can have all the talent in the world, but people are really not going to care about you unless you lean into some kind of gimmick that gains a lot of attention. And this is what he's doing. I do believe that he's going to fight Yan, but I think he's pushing it off as much as possible because I do think he knows that he's not going to win that fight. What Yan showed in the first one, I don't know if there's as many improvements that he can make, considering that Yan is shockingly a better wrestler than Sterling. If that doesn't tell you that Petr Yan is the best fighter in the world, I don't exactly know what to say.
Yep, that when we discovered that's the reason that Petr Yan had one of the top 3 performances of the year last year in a losing effort. He lost the belt and had one of the top 3 performances of the year for the Violence Ball Awards. You can go check that out on my Substack. Subtle plug.
You have to go on jones.substack.com.
There we go. Which Zach is actually the only other writer on with me right now. So thank you very much for that. We're going to get that going. But this is MMA Island, and this is the current and more current events. We had a lot of UFC on ESPN 32 fallout. So real quick, let me just list these off for you, and I'll get your thoughts. We have some late notice replacements for Kelleher and TJ Brown. Do you expect Kelleher and TJ Brown to take home the wins both because they both have the late notice week of replacements?
Yes. I do expect them both to get victories. I think Kelleher had a tougher fight on his hands before in Saidjaku Kagramanov.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he should win now. And I was going to pick TJ Brown before. And Charles Rosa, on a day's notice, this is built for him to win. It just kind of is. You can get more details on why that is when the prediction article comes out on the Substack. You can get more in detail looks as to, my insights onto this.
That's coming out on Friday, the day before UFC on ESPN 32 with the Scrapyard, which is both of he's going to be co-hosting on the show, and we'll get some predictions from him in the middle of the Scrapyard. So yeah, be on the lookout for that and our full predictions. But we also had the rescheduling of Kay Hansen and Jasmine
Jasdavicius.
There we go. Also, Michelle Fihea, Caio Baralho, and many others are off the card. But one that's really interesting that you've got quite the theory on that was rescheduled off of UFC on ESPN 32 was Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that means in the mystic sense of like what that fight was going to entail? Because you had a really interesting theory a couple months ago.
Oh, is it the head kick chain?
Yes. If you just explain that to us really quickly.
Yes, I can. Okay, so Impa Kasanganay gets brutally head kicked by Joaquin Buckley.
Knocked out of the year 2020.
One of the best MMA knockouts of all time.
Yes.
Just one of the better combat sports knockouts ever. It's an absolute masterpiece. Joaquin Buckley then goes on to get brutally head kicked by Alessio Di Chirico.
Mm-hmm.
Alessio Di Chirico then goes on to get brutally head kicked by Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Now, is the chain going to continue? Because Buckley's already been a part of this train, you see. If everything goes to plan, then Joaquin Buckley will beat Abdul Razak Al Hassan by first round head kick. If the chain goes as follows, that is what happens. But I don't know in this Mystic chain if someone can be on it twice. So it's interesting to see what happens.
Well, both of them will be involved in it twice if it happens again. So I guess
yes, but it's Al Hassan's turn to lose.
Yeah. So sorry about the crazy background noise, everybody. My dog got fixed and she's in an Elizabethan collar, which is more formally known as more regularly known as the cone of shame. So she's got a cone and she's just scraping all along the walls, being dramatic. So sorry about the audio and visual distractions, but we're moving past it. We're getting there. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think that I don't know if it was going to continue, but man, like when you think about the components that make that up, I was really excited to see that. So it's a shame that we're not going to see that this weekend.
That would have been one of the better fights on this card. That is in desperate need of some lifeblood.
Yeah. So as far as more UFC on ESPN 32 news, as far as Bill Algeo. So as up to Bill Algeo's media day that was recently posted, maybe yesterday, he was awaiting results on an inconclusive test from his opponent. An inconclusive COVID test. I've never really heard of that before, but during his media day, Bill Algeo said he was waiting anxiously by the phone, waiting to see if this fight was still going to happen. So the danger with talking about these cards the week before they happen, like you used to be able to do safely, is you never know how much of the card is actually going to stay intact. You have to wait till after weigh-ins to know, and even up until fight time. There was fights canceled the day of last year. So it's, we're in tricky times as far as scheduling is concerned. But yeah, hopefully Bill Algeo gets his fight. But let's say it's some sketchy sitch over here.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That is also one of the better fights on this card too.
Oh, 100%. This isn't about the card, but we will be covering that soon. Yes. The final inside the cage news, as far as announcements or reschedulings or things like that, is the grudge match between Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington is set as the headliner for UFC 272. It is going to be a pay-per-view main event without an official UFC divisional belt on the line. People came out in the headlines and said, there's no belt on the line, but you don't know that because one of them actually has a belt right now. What do you think about that? Because I know you hate that.
I do. I despise it. The fact that at least the one good thing about this is that means Leon Edwards gets the title shot, which a report from Aaron Bronstetter today did say that was 100% confirmed from Dana White. So expect a Kamar Usman versus Leon Edwards 2 booking sometime in the near future. But in terms of this fight, I think it is a amazing pay-per-view co-main event. I think at this point in time, Jorge Masvidal has lost the ability to headline a pay-per-view without belts. I think that, yes, he still has the star power, but not as much anymore because the mystique around him is shattered. His Mystic run, you think about it, the run that made him a superstar from a hardcore fan favorite to one of the biggest stars in the sport.
Darren Till, Ben Askren, Nate Diaz?
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. And none of those wins have aged well at all. They have all aged, in fact, quite poorly. You look back, a retrospective of the legendary Masvidal run, 2 brutal title losses, and now he's getting up there in age. He's of no threat to the title. I just don't see how he's a compelling pay-per-view headliner at this point, and neither do I see Colby Covington. I mean, this is just a sham, man, because this is like, oh, the UFC has heard, oh, Colby Covington doesn't have any ranked wins, which he doesn't, by the way. Colby Covington has currently 0 wins and 0 fights against current ranked welterweights, and yet he's still the number 1 contender. How much of a fraud is that? Anyways, this is a stylistic layup for Colby, and then he's probably going to whine and moan his way into another title shot after this, and he'll keep his high contendership status. I'm just sick of it. He is the reason why welterweight is stalled right now, because he keeps on jamming up Usman with bad title shots that he doesn't deserve. And he's terrified to defend his ranking against actual deserving contenders. So
Yeah.
I'm sick of Colby. I want him out of the picture as soon as possible, unless he wants to fight actual contenders. Will he fight Gilbert Burns? No. Will he fight Vicente Luque? No. No. Will he fight Leon Edwards? No. He'll only fight fights that are stylistic layups and high ranked enough for him to get title shots. And I'm sick of it.
Fair enough. Thanks for your opinions. That's why I have you on the show. It's because we're so diametrically opposed on these things. I love it, but while we're still on the topic of 170 and Colby and Kamaru, and let's start off the outside antics portion. I had it listed last, but we'll put it first since you already mentioned it. Dana White is quoted as saying Leon Edwards is 100% next for Kamaru Usman, and I know that brings joy out of your cold, dead heart, Zach.
It does.
Because you think Leon Edwards deserves it all, and I can't even argue with you. He deserves the next title shot. So give us a real quick rundown of what you think we can expect for Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards 2.
This fight is more dangerous for Kamaru Usman than you all expect, especially if he fights the way he's been fighting recently. If Kamaru Usman tries to strike with Leon Edwards, he will lose this fight convincingly. Leon Edwards is currently the sharpest striker at 170 pounds. His shots are ridiculously accurate, and this is awesome news for someone fighting Kamaru Usman, who's kind of well known for having god-awful striking defense. He is really hittable. I mean, he makes Colby Covington look like a good striker, and that's saying so much. Leon Edwards will be able to piece him up. He will be. And the fact that Leon has gotten better takedown defense since their first fight in a clinch, and his amazing clinch game. I don't have to tell you about Leon Edwards' clinch game.
You don't. You really don't need to tell me about Leon Edwards' clinch game. I know.
Those clinch break elbows are the stuff of legend.
Mm-hmm.
But if Usman goes for a wrestle-heavy game plan, then he most likely will win. But he hasn't been showing wrestle-heavy. That's the one wrestle-heavy performance he's had recently is against Masvidal the first time, and that has been shown to be a bit of an outlier with his recent fights.
I agree. Sure he's definitely evolved into a different style during his championship reign.
I'm sure he knows that he can't strike with Leon, but if he tries, then there's a very good chance that he will lose the belt to Leon Edwards, because he is so much better than you all give him credit for.
Well, speaking of that fight, putting the pieces together from an Adam Catterall tweet, the BT Sports journalist, he had a talk with Dana White, and from my understanding, it sounds like Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards 2 is happening in the summertime at O2 Arena in England. Oh. That's a lovely spot for that fight.
Oh, I like that.
I like it too.
Unfortunately, there's not many other interesting English fighters you can throw on there, because I hate most English fighters.
Hey, there's a few great English fighters that are underrated.
Tom Aspinall's cool. I like Tom Aspinall.
Oh, I thought you said Masvidal because he's now the father of England.
No, Aspinall. Aspinall's probably my favorite English fighter.
Well, you got Aspinall, England. You got Arnold Allen, you got Nathaniel Wood, you got Lerone Murphy.
I like all those guys. You're right. You just named a bunch of. You know me. You just named a bunch of guys who I like a lot.
I know. So next, I don't really know if we need to remark on this, but I thought I'd just say it. Conor McGregor's Black Forge Inn in Ireland was attacked in the middle of the night with Molotov cocktails. Nobody was injured. The premises was not super damaged. Conor wasn't there, and they were full on open for business afterwards. So, sketchy situation over there, I guess. But
insurance fraud. No, I'm kidding.
That's what the people were joking about that. I already saw that joke a few times, but we'll see what happens. Connor actually posted a very interesting video on the internet today in some sort of public bathroom in a very, very tight shirt yelling, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get to these last two and then we'll get out of here. I've already kept y'all too long. Kevin Holland, soon after he apprehended a dangerous civilian for the police last year, was taken into police custody himself soon afterwards for past due tickets associated with an ID that is no longer active. So the Trailblazer blazed a trail into jail for a moment. He didn't actually, spend time or anything, but yeah, I just a little funny thing that he gave out or that he talked about in an interview recently.
Now he has to do his next fight walkout with Rasheed Wallace and Bonzi Wells and Greg Anthony to do the Jailblazer.
Oh my God. His next fight is versus Alex Cowboy Oliveira. That should be a banger.
Ooh, another legendary cheater. Let's go. That's so much fun.
I guess the last piece of news that was relevant, that I thought was relevant, is Dustin Poirier is on Instagram officially putting on the pounds and packing on weight for his move to 170. What, for the next year, what if you were Dustin Poirier's manager and he said, I only want to fight at 170, what would the layout be? Assuming that you're his manager, so you're assuming he's going to win his next fight, Mr. Bounce Back, of course. So who's his next fight and what's after that?
He fights Nate Diaz, wins, then he takes the second easy big money fight in the division, Jorge Masvidal.
He's not going to fight Masvidal. He'd rather fight Colby.
They're
training partners, buddy.
If I'm his manager, I tell him not to fight Colby.
I want that fight so bad.
You don't, because Colby would win.
All right. So you've got him fighting Nate, then Jorge, then
then retiring.
Oh, he retires after the Gamebred fight, huh? So 2022, if you were his manager, would be the last year in the octagon for the Diamond, El Diamante.
Yes, because think about it. He's not going to fight for 170 pound gold. He knows that he can't win it. I mean, there's a chance at 155, but he knows that he can't beat Usman. He can't beat Leon. He can't beat Hamza or Luque or any of the top welterweights. And if he doesn't want to go back down to lightweight, then why not just take two massive money fights that cash two big more checks and then retire out on a high note?
And then not fight Connor for the fourth one?
Connor's not going to fight him again.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you think the people desperately need to know before they get the current again next week?
Hope that Jack Hermanson beat Sean Strickland, because if not, we're going to be talking about him in a current news segment, and we'll probably not in the best light. Maybe something Kevin Holland related, like the jail thing.
All right, guys. Well, from me to you and Zach to you, thank you very much for joining us for the first episode of The Current on MMA Island. Bon voyage, happy trails, or, I might switch the language and say happy sales. Bring it back in next week, and we'll have something new for you on the MMA Island. Thank you so much.
We'll see you when you wash up next.
Absolutely. I like that.